What if a gamma ray burst hits the Earth? Picture this. It's 2:17 a.m., and the skies above North America are calm, starry, and uneventful. People are asleep, unaware that in that same moment, across the cosmos, a massive star collapses into a black hole. From that distant death throes, twin beams of energy, gamma rays, the deadliest form of light, shoot outward, screaming across the void. And for the first time in recorded history, one of those beams is aimed directly at us. It's not an explosion in the way we think of bombs or supernovas. A gamma ray burst, GRB, is more like a sniper rifle shot across the galaxy. Focused, precise, and unimaginably powerful. In just a few seconds, the burst releases more energy than our sun will produce in its entire 10 billion-year lifetime, and by the time our satellites register the event, it's already too late. The gamma rays, traveling at the speed of light, have slammed into Earth. The first detection is silent. No sound, no visual fireworks. Just data. NASA's Swift satellite records an abrupt spike in gamma radiation, its alarms silently flashing in an empty control room. Automated systems trigger alerts to observatories worldwide, but the damage has already begun. Historically, gamma ray bursts were first discovered during the Cold War. In 1967, American Vela satellites, designed to catch Soviet nuclear tests, instead caught something far stranger: brief, intense bursts of gamma radiation coming from space. It took years before scientists realized these were distant cosmic cataclysms, not secret weapons. And since then, we've cataloged hundreds of them, thankfully, all far enough away to be harmless. But what if one wasn't? What if a burst from just 5,000 light-years away, a relatively close neighbor in our Milky Way, struck Earth head-on? Within seconds, the upper atmosphere is fried. The ozone layer, our shield against the sun's ultraviolet radiation, is torn apart like tissue paper. Nitrogen and oxygen molecules, normally harmless, are broken down and reassembled into nitrogen oxides, poisonous gases that darken the skies and contaminate the air. But that's only the first ripple in a wave of disaster. In the next moments, Earth's delicate balance will begin to unravel. Up next, what happens inside our atmosphere and biosphere when bombarded by deadly cosmic light? A gamma ray burst isn't just a flash of light, it's a molecular wrecking ball. As the gamma rays smash into Earth's upper atmosphere, they ionize nitrogen and oxygen atoms, breaking apart molecular bonds that have held for billions of years. In the blink of an eye, our planet's chemical makeup begins to change. The most immediate victim? The ozone layer. This fragile shell absorbs harmful ultraviolet, UV radiation from the sun, allowing life to thrive below. But now, thanks to the GRB, the ozone is shredded. Without it, ultraviolet light pours in unfiltered. You might think of sunscreen or sunglasses as protection, but against this level of UV radiation, it would be like trying to stop a forest fire with a water pistol. Within hours, the composition of the sky changes. High in the stratosphere, the newly formed nitrogen oxides react with sunlight, producing a thick brown haze of smog-like compounds. These gases not only block some sunlight, darkening the skies and cooling the planet, but they also rain down as acid, contaminating rivers, lakes, and soils. Biologically, the damage is immediate. Phytoplankton, the microscopic plants of the ocean, and the foundation of the marine food web, are hit hardest. These tiny organisms depend on sunlight, but are extremely vulnerable to UV radiation. As they die off, the entire oceanic food chain begins to unravel. Fish populations plummet, coral reefs bleach and die, and ocean currents start to shift. On land, plants and animals fare no better. Crops wither under the intense radiation. Forest canopies, which normally shield the ground from excess UV, begin to thin as trees suffer DNA damage. Animals, including humans, exposed to direct sunlight, develop radiation burns, cataracts, and weakened immune systems. Technological systems aren't spared either. Satellites in low Earth orbit, already struggling with the initial blast, face continuous degradation from increased solar UV. GPS, communications, and weather satellites fail in waves. Power grids on the ground face surges and disruptions as Earth's upper atmosphere becomes electrically unstable. This is how the first day unfolds. A world bathed in invisible death, its skies poisoned, its oceans dying, and its protective shields torn away. Hospitals fill with cases of severe sunburns and radiation sickness, especially in regions under intense sunlight like the equator. Supply chains, already strained by the initial satellite failures, begin to crack. With GPS down and satellite communication erratic, global shipping routes falter. Cargo ships drift, planes are grounded, and food distribution networks collapse. Politically, alliances fracture. Some nations hoard resources, closing their borders to refugees fleeing radiation-soaked regions. Others accuse each other of hiding vital satellite data that could have warned about the disaster earlier. Emergency summits between world powers struggle to produce a unified response. Meanwhile, survivalists and private tech billionaires take matters into their own hands. Underground bunkers, previously the stuff of prepper fantasies, become lifelines for the ultra-wealthy. Tech companies accelerate work on solar shielding domes and artificial food production systems. But for most of humanity, there are no shelters. There's only exposure and fear. In isolated moments of brilliance, scientists propose deploying emergency stratospheric aerosol injections, spraying reflective particles into the upper atmosphere to block some sunlight and buy time. It's a risky geoengineering gamble, but one of the few options on the table. In the first week, humanity realizes this is no temporary crisis. The world has shifted into survival mode, and every second counts. Next, we'll see how Earth's ecosystems and climate buckle under the strain, and how daily life transforms in this darkened, poisoned world. Weeks pass. The initial shock gives way to grim reality. The nitrogen oxides created by the gamma ray burst now blanket the globe, dimming sunlight and casting the skies in an eerie reddish-brown hue. Temperatures begin to drop as less solar energy reaches the surface. What was once global warming now flips into rapid, unplanned cooling. It's the start of what some call the second winter, a man-made ice age triggered not by industry, but by the death scream of a distant star. Agriculture collapses first. Crops sensitive to changes in sunlight, temperature, and UV exposure fail across the breadbaskets of the world. Wheat fields wither in Kansas, rice paddies die in Southeast Asia, and corn wilts in South America. Food prices skyrocket. Supermarkets empty out. Governments ration supplies, but black markets flourish. In the oceans, the devastation is just as brutal. With phytoplankton populations destroyed by ultraviolet radiation, fish stocks crash. Fishing fleets return empty-handed. Coral reefs, already struggling from past climate change, bleach and crumble into lifeless graveyards. Coastal communities dependent on fishing face starvation. The atmosphere itself grows hostile. Acid rain, laced with nitrogen compounds, erodes infrastructure and poisons freshwater sources. Rivers in industrial areas become toxic. Animals flee shrinking habitats, bringing dangerous predators into human settlements. Insects, oddly resilient, spread unchecked, carrying diseases like malaria and dengue into temperate regions where they were once rare. And in human society, the rhythms of daily life shift dramatically. Schools close indefinitely or move underground. Outdoor work becomes a nighttime activity to avoid UV exposure. Cities build protective canopies over streets and playgrounds. Even recreation changes. Hiking, sunbathing, and sports are abandoned for indoor pursuits. Life becomes a constant calculation of risk. Do you venture outside for supplies and risk radiation exposure, or stay hidden and face hunger? For most, there are no good choices, only temporary trade-offs. But how long can humanity endure these conditions before technology fails, food supplies vanish, and society itself begins to fracture? As the environmental crisis deepens, humanity faces its next brutal challenge: survival in a world where nature itself has turned hostile. The first to fall are the supply chains. Global shipping, crippled by failing satellites and UV-damaged infrastructure, can't move food fast enough to feed starving populations. What little harvest remains is hoarded by the powerful or looted by the desperate. Electric grids, already fragile, begin to collapse. Solar panels generate less energy under the brown haze, and hydroelectric plants suffer from drought-stricken rivers. Nuclear power plants stay online, but fuel resupply is a logistical nightmare. Blackouts spread from rural areas to major cities. In the darkness, hospitals, water treatment facilities, and emergency shelters struggle to function. Hunger becomes a global pandemic. In wealthy nations, emergency rations and vertical farms buy a little time. But in poorer regions, famine strikes hard. Food riots erupt in urban centers. Some governments respond with martial law. Others collapse into civil war. Refugees flee irradiated farmlands and coastal cities, seeking shelter in mountains, caves, or wherever human instinct can carve out safety. But even in this darkness, innovation sparks. Makeshift underground farms using LED lighting and recycled water begin to appear beneath abandoned malls and parking garages. DIY radiation shelters are built from scrap metal and salvaged lead. Communities experiment with mushroom cultivation and lab-grown meat to replace traditional agriculture. It's crude, improvised, but it's a start. Psychologically, the toll is immense. Depression, anxiety, and PTSD skyrocket. Isolation becomes a survival tactic, but it tears at the human need for connection. Suicide rates climb in regions where hope fades fastest. Some people turn to religion, others to virtual reality, escaping into digital worlds where the sun still shines and crops still grow. Meanwhile, world leaders face impossible choices. Should resources go toward short-term survival or long-term recovery? Can economies be rebuilt on innovation, or is hoarding and isolation the only path forward? Months turn into years, and survival evolves into adaptation. Humanity realizes that this new world isn't a temporary disaster. It's the new normal. Faced with permanent ozone depletion and environmental instability, societies begin crafting long-term strategies to not only survive but rebuild. Engineers and scientists collaborate across borders. The first major breakthrough is atmospheric shielding technology. Massive orbiting reflectors are launched, designed to scatter a portion of the sun's UV rays before they reach Earth. On the ground, cities retrofit their skylines with advanced UV-blocking glass, while underground metropolises expand, lit by artificial suns powered by nuclear fusion and geothermal energy. Genetic engineering steps out of the shadows. Crops are modified to survive with minimal sunlight and resist ultraviolet radiation. Animals are bioengineered to rebuild fragile food webs. Even humans are subtly altered, skin cells enhanced for UV repair, eyesight adapted to dimmer environments, and immune systems fortified against airborne nitrogen compounds. Politically, the world looks nothing like it once did. Former superpowers weakened by internal collapse give way to new alliances of scientific and technological hubs. Nations with pre-existing underground infrastructure, like Switzerland's bunkers, Norway's seed vaults, or Japan's resilient cities, rise as leaders in the global recovery. Meanwhile, oil-rich states and agricultural powers fade into irrelevance. The economy shifts from consumerism to resilience. Fossil fuels become obsolete, replaced by nuclear, geothermal, and advanced battery technologies. Currency gives way to resource credits. Power is no longer measured in wealth, but in energy, food, and knowledge. Socially, priorities change. The new heroes aren't celebrities or athletes, but scientists, engineers, and survival strategists. Education focuses on space science, sustainable technology, and disaster preparedness. Art and culture reflect a world scarred but enduring, filled with stories of cosmic struggle and human tenacity. And yet, beneath the progress, tensions simmer. Who controls these new technologies? Who gets access to the safest cities and best food? Some warn that humanity hasn't solved its flaws. It simply rebuilt them in a harsher world. Just as humanity stabilizes, the universe reminds us of its indifference. Astronomers, scanning the skies with new deep space observatories, detect something chilling. A nearby Wolf-Rayet star, WR-104, showing signs of imminent collapse. Located roughly 8,000 light-years from Earth, WR-1 has been on the radar for decades, but now its rotational axis seems aligned. Dangerously so. If it detonates in a gamma-ray burst, Earth could face a second, potentially more devastating blow. The news fractures humanity's fragile unity. Some advocate for immediate, large-scale evacuation efforts. Mars, the Moon, and the asteroid belt become lifelines. Space agencies accelerate construction of colony ships, orbital habitats, and lunar bases. Private corporations and government coalitions race to stake their claim in the solar system. For the first time, space colonization isn't a dream, it's a necessity. But not everyone agrees. Critics warn that only a tiny fraction of humanity can escape in time. For billions, Earth remains the only home. These groups double down on planetary defense, building thicker shielding, expanding underground cities, and creating vast digital archives to preserve human knowledge in case of extinction. Philosophically, a rift grows. Should humanity run from cosmic threats or learn to endure them? Should we spread life across the stars or protect our birthplace at all costs? The debate echoes through science conferences, political summits, and late-night survival broadcasts. Meanwhile, efforts intensify to monitor WR-104. Will it collapse tomorrow, next century, or never? Gamma-ray bursts are unpredictable killers, and the uncertainty itself becomes humanity's greatest psychological burden. Then, unexpectedly, a breakthrough. A multinational research team develops a prototype gamma-ray deflection system using massive magnetic fields and plasma shields in orbit to scatter incoming high-energy particles. It's untested, risky, and controversial, but it offers something the first GRB attack didn't: a fighting chance. Now, humanity stands at a crossroads. Do we gamble on defending Earth, risking everything on experimental technology? Or do we accept our planet's vulnerability and focus on building a new home beyond the stars? Despite the looming threat of WR-104, humanity doesn't wait idly. The process of rebuilding Earth begins, slow, fragile, but determined. The first step is environmental triage. Artificial ozone generators are deployed across the poles, pumping reactive chemicals into the stratosphere to patch the destroyed ozone layer. Satellite swarms orbit the Earth, constantly monitoring radiation levels and atmospheric chemistry. In the oceans, bioengineers release genetically enhanced phytoplankton designed to survive high UV levels and low sunlight. Slowly, these microscopic pioneers restart the marine food chain. Fish farms, protected by floating UV shields, repopulate the seas. Coral reefs are rebuilt using 3D printed substrates and lab-grown polyps. On land, agriculture is revolutionized. Vertical farms powered by fusion energy provide food for urban populations. Crops grow under artificial suns, inside repurposed subway tunnels and bunkers. Small isolated communities return to subsistence farming, blending ancient techniques with modern biotech to reclaim poisoned soils. Society itself becomes more modular and resilient. Instead of global megacities, humanity embraces distributed living, interconnected underground towns, submarine colonies, and high-altitude habitats above the worst of the UV radiation. Governance shifts toward regional alliances, focused on shared survival rather than national pride. Education transforms. Children are raised not with stories of endless progress, but with hard-won lessons of fragility. Space science, ecological stewardship, and disaster readiness become core subjects. A new cultural movement emerges, blending technological optimism with a deep humility before nature's power. Humanity's scientific focus shifts as well. Space agencies, no longer racing for prestige, collaborate to build solar system-wide defenses. asteroid deflectors, cosmic radiation shields, and gamma-ray monitoring networks. Contingency plans are drafted for scenarios that once belonged only in science fiction. And yet, scars remain. Many cities lie abandoned, their skyscrapers crumbling beneath acid rain. Entire ecosystems are lost, perhaps forever. Cultural heritage sites sit in irradiated exclusion zones, reminders of how close humanity came to vanishing. But despite everything, civilization endures. Years turn to decades. Humanity survives, adapts, and rebuilds, but it is forever changed. The gamma-ray burst was not just a disaster, it was an awakening. A stark reminder that Earth is not isolated in the cosmos, but exposed, vulnerable to forces beyond our control. Across every culture, in every language, people ask the same question. Are we safe here, or is the universe fundamentally hostile to life? For some, the answer is escape. Space colonization accelerates like never before. Mars becomes a permanent home, its underground cities bustling with scientists, engineers, and families who refuse to be victims of cosmic chance. The asteroid belt turns into a network of mining colonies, and robotic probes venture further, scouting distant moons and exoplanets. Humanity is no longer confined to Earth. It is a multi-world species born from necessity. But others argue for responsibility, not escape. Earth, they say, is still our only true home. If we cannot protect this fragile planet, what makes us think we can build a better life elsewhere? Environmental restoration becomes a global priority, with massive efforts to stabilize the climate, restore lost species, and clean the poisoned atmosphere. The Earth Restoration Corps, an international organization, becomes as influential as any government or corporation. Philosophically, humanity shifts from arrogance to humility. The gamma-ray burst is seen as a cosmic reminder of our smallness. Religions reinterpret the event as a test, a reckoning, or even a second Genesis. In art and literature, themes of survival, cosmic loneliness, and environmental stewardship dominate. Technologically, humanity becomes both bolder and more cautious. We build bigger telescopes, faster spaceships, and more powerful defenses, but we also create planetary archives, genetic vaults, and deep space warning systems. Redundancy becomes a survival strategy. Culturally, a sense of shared destiny emerges. Nations that once warred over land and resources now collaborate on space missions and ecological repairs. Humanity, fragmented by politics, finds new unity in its shared vulnerability. And yet, the shadow of cosmic disaster never fades. WR-104 still looms, its fate uncertain. Somewhere out there, another gamma-ray burst waits, unseen, undetected. Centuries later, humanity stands transformed. From the ashes of disaster, a new civilization has emerged, one defined not by conquest or consumption, but by adaptation and awareness. Our cities, whether nestled beneath lunar craters, orbiting distant asteroids, or rooted deep beneath Earth's crust, hum with life. They are monuments to survival and cautionary tales against hubris. But what kind of future have we built? Optimists envision an interplanetary society where diversity flourishes. Mars, once a barren wasteland, now pulses with underground forests and artificial rivers. Titan's methane seas host robotic colonies mining organic compounds, while Europa's subsurface ocean is explored by AI submersibles searching for life. Humanity has spread outward, making the solar system our cradle, if not our fortress. Yet others see a civilization haunted by fear. Our art, architecture, and politics revolve around the next disaster. Every schoolchild learns orbital mechanics before history. Every government allocates vast resources to cosmic defense systems. We scan the skies obsessively, waiting for the next burst, the next strike. Some argue we've traded freedom for security, wonder for vigilance. On Earth, scars remain. Though the atmosphere has partially healed, some species never return. Ancient cities lie abandoned, monuments to a time when we believed the universe revolved around us. And yet, nature surprises us. New ecosystems emerge, evolve to survive the altered sunlight and atmosphere. Humanity itself adapts, genetically, culturally, philosophically. Most importantly, the gamma ray burst has reshaped our relationship with the universe. Where once we saw the stars as distant, romantic points of light, we now see them as potential threats and potential homes. We are no longer passive observers, but active participants in our cosmic environment. So what does the future hold? Another GRB may strike tomorrow, or it may never come again. Perhaps we will transcend our fragile origins, spreading to other stars. Or perhaps we will remain here, guardians of a single blue world, fragile but fiercely protected. The gamma ray burst forced us to ask, what will we do with the time we have, knowing it can end without warning? And so we leave you with this question. In a universe that could destroy us in an instant, will we choose fear? Or will we choose to create something greater than ourselves? A flash of light from across the galaxy could end life on Earth in seconds, but maybe, just maybe, it could also ignite our greatest chapter of survival and discovery. What do you think? Would we run from the stars or embrace them as our next home? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this cosmic journey, don't forget to subscribe for more science-powered what-if explorations.